Well, that's fantastic. I've got a job tonight, and my job was to help you think about your business and how you can do it better. Jamie and I know each other because I worked for the Indiana Bankers Association a number of times. I told him I was going to be nearby. I was actually over with the less, shall we say, the lesser people. I was in Washington, Indiana today. I understand there's a little bit of animosity between the two counties, and I understand that over there you guys think that the gene pool needs a little chlorine. But that's where I was this morning, and we put this all together so I could be here with you today. So the point is, we're going to have a good time this evening here at this lovely Astra Theater, and we're also going to talk about your business. You guys ready to do that? Well, you're a really enthusiastic audience here in Jasper, Indiana. You guys ready to talk about how to do business better? That's fantastic. Okay, well, thank you very much for welcoming me here. I'm going to give you a little background because Jamie and I know each other. He's a hog farmer from Ohio. I'm a dairy farmer from Huntington, Indiana. So that I know you, the business community of Jasper, Indiana, Du Bois County. I know a little bit about you. I know a little bit about Springs Valley Bank and Trust. But you're saying, who is this guy and why was he brought in here to talk to me? Well, first off, I have an objective to help you do business better. And also, you probably say, what do you know about business? Well, my backstory really simply is this. I was a dairy farm kid from Huntington, Indiana. I have a degree in agricultural economics. In 1993, I was selling lighting fixtures in San Diego because selling lighting fixtures in Southern California is what you do with a degree in agricultural economics. And on Halloween night, I dressed up as Bill Clinton. I know we got some millennials in here. He was the President of the United States of America. For you older people, you remember Bill Clinton, so my entrepreneurial leap was I won a Halloween costume contest when I was still a lighting fixture salesman in 1993. And in 1994, I decided I was going to turn this Halloween costume into a job. So I quit my job to become a professional Bill Clinton impersonator, political comedian. So if you can imagine a little bit of fat padding, some makeup to age myself, gray hair, charcoal suit, and I could get up and do a Bill Clinton impersonation for a political comedy show. I've always been funny my whole life. I was raised the youngest of 9 children. I know I'm in Du Bois County, so Catholicism is nothing new to you people, right? Any Catholics in here? Right, of course. Methodists, Lutherans. It's basically, they're all the same. It's just Catholics are more guilty when they drink. Although not here, right? I know what comes up on this week. My mother and father are very Catholic people. My dad actually was a Catholic monk as a young man. He spent 2 years in a monastery. He dropped out to become a father the old-fashioned way. That's a screwing joke right there, ladies and gentlemen. It's PG-13, it's after 6 p.m., and you all been drinking, so you can handle screwing jokes, all right? So I was the youngest of 9 children. By the time they got to me, there was no room in the inn. I slept in a corner of my parents' bedroom in a crib until I was 6. That's a true story. You guys have heard about goldfish growing to the size of their container. I might have had a professional NBA career were it not for the crib. I work for a lot of agricultural groups like the one I did today for the seed people over in Washington, Indiana. It's funny to me, I do some of the pork people, and they all protest. I know you guys have agriculture here in Du Bois County. It's not humane the way we put those pigs in those little teeny pens. I say, hell, I was in a crib until I was 6. Where were you then? It's not nice the way we poke and prod and corral those poor animals on those factory farms. I said, have you ever been to Disney World? You know, to protest how they treat the humans down there. So that's my backstory. I quit my job. I know that you probably always think you get discovered. That's what you've heard. You know, you get discovered. Pamela Anderson got discovered because she was hot. They don't discover farm boys that act like Bill Clinton. When I quit my job to begin a career in political comedy, I had 3 gigs lined up for the rest of my career, for the rest of my life, totaling $1,200 of gross revenue. So what we're going to share here today is really some of the entrepreneurial lessons that it takes from starting on a shoestring with no money and creating a political show, a political comedy show, and turning it into a business. So while I understand that everybody in this room does different things, from bankers to whatever else we have, construction people, to agriculture, to car sales, to running for sheriff. I don't know, I just threw that in there because I saw your shirt. We're going to basically give you the lessons and the ideas that I've had from a career of talking to business organizations. And I know some of you are still saying, I'm not sure I see this Bill Clinton thing, because Diana said, you know, you kind of look like Clinton, but you're younger and thinner. Yeah, he's an old pervert, for God's sakes. I'm younger, thinner, and better looking. Thank you very much, Diana. I know y'all are saying, can you talk like Bill Clinton can? Can you say, I know what it means, darling, maybe Diana, I can show you what it means when I say I'm a hands-on politician. So that's the background. Obviously, I was able to quit my job and become Bill Clinton because I had the same voice as Bill Clinton through years of not inhaling. If you guys watched the news, that would have been a funnier joke right there, I promise you. Just like Bill Clinton in 1993, I also was dating a 25-year-old girl. So that's the background. Now you've gotten to know a little bit about me. I make my living talking at corporate events. I do a lot of agricultural events because of my background. I do corporate events, association events, things like the Indiana Bankers Association where Jamie and I have met over the years. This is what I do. For 24 years, this has been my living. I've talked to organizations and corporations and associations all over North America. It's kind of a big deal. It's a feather in your cap when you do what I do. I've crossed off all 50 states to do a paid gig. That was a neat thing because it took me 18 and a half years to cross off Mississippi. They're slow, all right? They make the people in Washington look smart by comparison, just to give you an idea here. I opened my show, I said, thank you, Mississippi. You're dead last, you're 50th, you're the bottom of the list, but I'm finally here to do a paid show. An old man in the front row raised his hand and said, Damian, we's last in every other category too. So I've worked for about every organization you can imagine, every industry you can imagine, from car sales to machinery sales to fertilizer to seed to insurance to banking, everything in between. I've even done gigs for the funeral directors associations. They're pretty fun when you get them away from the shop. They're creepy. You don't shake hands at those gigs, all right? So I'm going to talk to you about business, and I'm going to talk to you about you, and I want to talk to you business person to business person. While what I've done has been very different from maybe what you've done, the lessons remain the same. To be a comedian is to really be a professional observer. For all those years, I read the paper, several papers per day, and I watched the news, and you're watching all this to try and get different perspective. And then you take all of your observation and you put your spin, your point of view on it and deliver it back to your audience in a funny manner. That's what comedy really is. So these are my observations about business and about success after 24 years of bumping the road like this. And that's what I still do. I read, I observe, I pay attention, I'm sharing this with you. So what we're going to talk about then is, the title of this program is to do business better. And we're not talking about perfect, we said better. And I find this interesting because the one thing that I try and tell folks all the time is my clients, my audience has never paid me for perfect. They paid me for a job well done. Perfect is really, really difficult. Perfect almost doesn't happen. Completed gets you paid. Perfect drives you crazy. And we must admit that. Has anybody here ever gotten a recall for a car? Anybody ever gotten a recall for a car? Of course you have. You know why? They put the car out there for sale before it was perfect. If they waited until it was perfect, the factory would shut down because they can't wait that long until they sell the car. Even Lexus, for several years, had an ad campaign. You guys remember the ad campaign for Lexus? The relentless pursuit of perfection. They're just pursuing it. Hell, they're not actually saying they're doing it. So perfect is really not profitable. You can't wait till something's perfect or you're going to go broke. Perfect is unattainable. And you know what you might say to me? Damian, that's not true. I have a daughter that just got 100% on her tests at school. Perfect is attainable. Well, first off, let's just go ahead and readily admit that there's a way big chasm between academics and real life, right? If academics, if academics was real like business, you'd actually have to produce something instead of a bunch of entitled little brats that want to go to have their safe spaces. Now, come on, you guys know that's funny. If you can't bitch about the younger generation, what can you do, right? And also, we got to pick on the older generation once in a while because, after all, I tell all the older people, they say, why are you picking on me? I'm an 80-year-old. I said, because making jokes about you is the only return on my Social Security I'm probably going to get. So perfect is not really attainable. You know, perfect means without flaws or defects. Does that describe anybody or anything or any product you've ever seen? Of course not. And more importantly, perfection doesn't mean you can't still be extremely effective as a performer. Anybody know who that picture is right up there? That's Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps is the best Olympic athlete in the history of Olympic sport. He has 28 medals, 23 of which are gold. That is leaps and bounds beyond any comprehension when it comes to Olympic athletes. Michael Phelps, the best athlete, maybe one of the best athletes that's ever lived. For sure he is one of the best athletes that ever lived. If you showed him video of his gold medal swims, do you think he couldn't still find flaws or imperfections? Maybe he missed his turn. Maybe he was a little bit slow off the block. Maybe his dive entry angle was a little bit off from what he had practiced. So the point is, if Michael Phelps can find imperfections in what he has done, certainly we can too. So I think our objective is to get really, really good, to get better every day, but to just go ahead and give up on this idea of perfection, because perfection ain't profitable, attainable, and it doesn't mean you can't still have a really good performance. The other thing, I read all these books, because I travel a lot. This is what I do. I know motivational speakers. I know most of them are phony. Let me tell you, as a person that came up doing political comedy and then moved into being an agricultural comedian, then moved into being a business and agricultural speaker and writer, let me just tell you something about motivational speakers. In 2008, things got really bad. You guys remember what the economy did in 2008? I know a bunch of these people. You don't think they're phonies? They quit. Motivational speakers quit. So the point I'm going to make for you is I've read their books. I write books. I've got a book in process right now called Do Business Better. That's how this conversation with Jamie began. I would like you to buy it, but it's not going to be out till winter. And then I'll let you all know you can have it. Maybe, in fact, I'll make Jamie buy it for you. I don't know yet. But here's what I want you to understand. I've read the books, and everyone talks about being successful. I think before we can talk about what it takes to be successful, each of us in our mind needs to realize success is defined by us. It's not defined by a book or some motivational speaker. It's what you want. If you're very spiritual, it might be time on the top of a mountain looking out at the sunset, time with your family, time with your cat, making lots of money. The superficial person wants a Porsche and a house on a lake. Whatever success is really up to you. For me, it's always been about a life and business of my choosing. And that's, I guess, what we're talking about here today. I think for all of us, it should be a life and business of our choosing. I don't want to not work. I enjoy what I do. I'm 49 years old, and I'm reinventing again. I don't have children. People say, you could retire. And do what? I drink enough as it is. I'm a farm kid. I was born working. I've been working since I was 8 years old. And by the way, that's another thing, because I know you're an agricultural community, and Jamie and I have this in common. People are funny. Growing up on a farm, now did all 90 of you kids work on the farm? No. It's just like here at Springs Valley, half the employees do all the work. I tell everybody, when you're one of 9 children, you understand litters. You understand being born in a litter. And when you're one of 9 children, you understand why hog farmers kill 2 out of every litter. We didn't need 9, 7 would have been plenty. My picture of success has been to do life and business of my choosing. I don't know what yours is, but I hope you have a vision of it, because that's the most important thing. For me, it's big on wealth, fulfillment, and location, because wealth affords me the ability to say no to things I didn't want to do, because I used to work the midnight shift in a ceiling tile factory, and I used to not be able to turn down overtime, and I don't want to be that way anymore. Fulfillment, because there's lots of people that have money, but they ain't got any happiness, because they're not doing something that makes them full, that makes them complete. And of course, location, because I want to live somewhere nice, not Barrow, Alaska. I live on a farm in Huntington, Indiana. I have a winter home in Phoenix, Arizona, because I don't like it when it's gray. I don't know how you people do it. I did it for a long time growing up. Oh, I like the change of seasons. That's a bunch of nonsense we tell ourselves. We say that because we know that by March we're ready to get the 9mm out and end it all. What's your picture of success? For me, it's also wealth, fulfillment, location, but also my why. When I quit my job to become a political comedian, I didn't want to look back. I didn't want to also have to crawl back, because there's always that thing that drives you where they say, wait a minute, you're going to come back in here and need a job. And my why was to never have to go back. My why was to be creative and to be rewarded financially for my work, not rewarded on my merit, because sometimes in large corporations, merit means your merit at kissing butt. That's my why, and my wealth fulfillment location is my big picture. What's yours? So it's important not that your picture of success looks like someone else's, it's important that you have a picture of success. I've met a lot of people that are very, very well off. I work for them. They hire me to do events for them. They run companies. They've started companies. And you know, the ones that are the most enjoyable to be around are the ones that still enjoy what they're doing, that are in there actually completing something, because they know they could retire, but they enjoy the fact that they're still working, doing something of their volition, of their creation. Can you achieve that? I think that's a picture of success. The biggest thing is you don't just throw in the towel with complete mediocrity and say, this is what I've always wanted. No, it's not. You're just giving up. And in March, after the 17th day in a row of it being 40 and raining, we understand we all get like that. Go to the tanning bed, then get on a plane, then list your property and move to somewhere sunny and warm. Okay, so I think there are 4 unwavering traits of success. You know, I've done a lot of talks, about 2,000 of them. Well, one of them was once for an entrepreneur class, and this entrepreneur class was high school kids. And the entrepreneur class, they brought me as a guest lecturer, and I thought it was really interesting to learn from what an 18-year-old kid thinks about the future of entrepreneurialism. And they said, Mr. Mason, what's it take to be successful starting your own little business? And I said, I'm not even sure I'm an entrepreneur. You know, I'm a guy that started my own thing, and I've got some different things going on, but I think there's a lot of people that are more entrepreneurial than me, for crying out loud, from Bill Gates to Steve Jobs to the people that started Google. But I guess, okay, I haven't had a real job for a long time, so I guess I qualify. So that's why I was the guest lecturer. And he said, what's it take to be successful running your own little business? And I said, before I answer that, I will go around the room. And every one of them said they got to have a really firm, solid business plan. That was the big thing. You got to have a firm, solid business plan, a well-done, formal business plan. They said, now, Mr. Mason, what do you think? And I said, I've never had one. You guys are familiar with a company called Nike? They make shoes. Phil Knight wrote a book a couple years ago called Shoe Dog. Phil Knight's worth about $35 billion. Phil Knight, the founder of Nike that built it into the Nike that it is that you know, never had a formal business plan. I think business plans are really good if you need to go to Springs Valley and get a loan. If you want, if you need a business plan to borrow money, you do not need a business plan to make money. Business plans are documents that make people really happy because it looks like you're mapping out what you're going to do for the next 10 years. How in this day and age can you map out what's going to happen in the next 10 years? Have you looked around? Did Uber exist 5 years ago? No. Look at all the stuff that's happened. Business plans are antiquated. Business plans are outdated. Business plans are neat documents. They don't evolve. That's the problem with them. So I think what really matters, and I told the entrepreneur class, I think there's 4 unwavering traits of success, and you better have some of these possessed in your body, in your mind, if you want to make it. And they are risk tolerance, drive, resilience, and vision. And by the way, we have sheets. We were going to hand them out, but it dawned on us that it'd just be something for you to hold. If you want, we can hand them out now. You want to hand them out now, or you just want them on the way out the door? On the way out the door work for you guys? Okay, perfect. Because you'll be looking at this, and I'll be wanting to talk to you, and then you'll be doing this, and then you'll be on your phone, and then that won't be fun for any of us, right? It won't be fun for any of us. Okay. Let's talk about the success traits. The first one, risk tolerance. You know, everybody and their sister has an idea. I know the bank gets approached by people with ideas. I know people that want to take me to coffee. That's my big one. They always want to take me to coffee and pick my brain. Anybody that's a business person here have that ever happen? You get the phone call, you get the email from someone, and they say, I'd like to get together with you and buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but Jesus, leave my brain alone. I don't need to be picked at. Sounds like something a vulture would do if I was dead in the desert. Picking my brain. More importantly, I don't drink coffee. I only drink 4 beverages: Coca-Cola, chocolate milk, beer, and water. That's it. I don't like coffee. I don't like coffee drinkers. Back when I worked in corporate America, the coffee drinkers would monkey around for the first 2 hours every morning doing nothing under the guise of getting coffee. You're not getting coffee. You're standing over there yakking about last night's episode of Survivor. Waste the first 2 hours of the day drinking coffee, that's somehow acceptable. But if you're not a coffee drinker like me, you take a cooler of beer to your cubicle at 3 in the afternoon. They don't like that, do they? I read an article a few years back, because I don't do coffee. My wife drinks enough coffee for both of us. I make her a pot of coffee every morning. She loves coffee. I don't like coffee. You know what? I read this article that said coffee is the beverage of intellect. I thought, how arrogant. Beverage of intellect. Come and visit me after I've had 12 Coors banquets. I get pretty intellectual. Beverage of intellect, you ought to come and see me, and you know what? We'll just talk about beverage of intellect, because after I've had my 12 beers and show you how smart I am, I'm going to point out one other thing. You think you're drinking the coffee's the beverage of intellect? How smart is it to stand in line and pay $6 for a drink with no booze in it? So the point I'm making to you is, I'm not even sure where I was right there. See, we just got off on a tangent. See how that happens? ADHD, too much atrazine in the water. Everybody has a good idea. The real thing I'm going to tell you is ideas are great. Can you tolerate going 6 months without making money? Can you tolerate 12 months without making money? Because when people get together and they want to pick my brain over a cup of coffee, I say, no, but you can buy me a Coke, and we'll get together, and I tell you what, we're not going to spend more than a half hour because I actually value my time. What do you want to do? Well, I've got this really good idea. And they tell me all about their entrepreneurial idea, and I say, that's fantastic. Can you go 6 months without making any money? And they say, you didn't hear me about my idea. I said, I heard everything about your idea. Can you go 12 months without making any money? And they say, you didn't listen to my idea. I said, I've listened to your idea twice now. Listen, kid, I'm telling you what, you want to make it, you got to learn how to go without making money, because you might go 12 months without making any money. And that's what most people do not understand. Those that can't handle the risk, never take the risk, and then judge those that did and say, well, they got lucky. This is the most important thing that a lot of folks can never do, and why they can never run their own little business. They can't tolerate the risk. Second trait of success that I told the entrepreneurial students one day when I said these 4 unwavering traits. The second one is drive. I get told this. I'm sure Jamie gets told this also. Any of you farm kids get told this. You're really lucky. You were raised on a farm. You learned a work ethic. Anybody ever been told that? You're lucky your mom and dad had that asphalt company. You learned to work. They think it's like sitting down and learning how to spell. You know how you learn a work ethic? Being made to work. It's as simple as that. Well, how'd that happen? It's just the way it works. You learn a work ethic. Drive is not a gene. Ambition is not a gene. You aren't born with an ambition gene. Let me tell you what I think it is about. Discipline. Hard workers, successful people work when they don't feel like it or when they don't have to. It's as simple as that. There's no ambition gene. This is the most easily learned trait going, because it's just about being disciplined. Sometimes talent gets confused. Now, how many folks in here believe in natural talent? God-given natural talent. No, I'm not going to pick on you. Nobody? Just me? Okay, that's fine. All right. The CEO of the company does, and I'm going to agree with him. There's a book called Talent is Overrated. It's written by Jeffrey Colvin. If you haven't read it, don't. It's not that good. But I shall give you the book report right now. The central elements of Jeff Colvin's Talent is Overrated. He says there's no such thing as natural God-given talent. There is just a thing called deliberate practice. Tiger Woods is good because at age 4 they started him golfing, and they also put him on a regimen because his father was a military guy and said, our objective is this. This is what we're trying to achieve. Deliberate practice. Every day doing something on a regimen with a desired outcome as the absolute focus of where we're trying to go. I disagree with the guy that wrote the book. I think there are both. I think there's natural talent and deliberate practice. And when those two things come together, you are successful, you are prosperous. I think that there is absolutely a thing about drive, which is the deliberate practice, that meets talent. You guys know another person. How many people here know Lady Gaga? Lady Gaga, the famous musician. I'm not afraid to admit I'm a fan. I like Lady Gaga. A year and a half ago, she jumped off the roof at the Super Bowl and came down to the field. Anybody see that? I'm watching that Super Bowl with my niece, And my niece says, oh God, she's so talented, she's so talented, she's so talented. And since I'm a fan, I did a little bit of research on Lady Gaga, who started playing the piano at age 4, who took lessons from the time she was 4, who was admitted into the Juilliard School of Music when she was a small child, who then opted for a Catholic education, but continued working with a voice coach and a piano coach. Stephanie Germanotta, who's the really name of Lady Gaga, also was admitted into NYU school, did that for a while, then decided she wanted to be more practical, dropped out and became a go-go dancer at clubs, worked nights, then dragging her keyboard around to clubs so that she could play live music. She also was a songwriter. You maybe didn't know this. She actually has written hit songs for Britney Spears. Before you ever heard of Lady Gaga, you heard her music being sung by Britney Spears. You tell me, is she talented? Yes. Is she also driven? Yes. It takes both. The third trait of entrepreneurial success that I told my entrepreneur class is resilience. And yes, you're right, I have a picture of Rocky up on the screen right now. If you don't like Rocky, please don't identify yourself. I get it if you didn't like the 5th one, but the first one was pretty darn amazing, wasn't it? You realize that movie's over 40 years old? I was a farm kid. I saw it on TV. We didn't go to the theater because that cost money. We didn't have medicine either because that cost money. You guys understand that? People come to my farm and always ask me if they spay and neuter the cats in the barn. And I said, my parents didn't spend money on health care for their kids. Hell, they didn't spay and neuter themselves. Look at them, there's 9 of us. Well, how come you don't have more cats running around out here? Well, it's a farm. It's called natural selection. Fan belts and augers are the main reason. So as a farm kid, I liked Rocky because who doesn't remember that scene in Rocky where to train him, they put him in a pen with a chicken. He had to work on his wind and his movement by chasing a chicken. And of course, what else did he do to get tougher? He went to a locker plant and beat up sides of beef. I'm a farm kid. I thought that was cool, but I also liked Rocky. What's Rocky say? It's not about how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Resilience. I'm convinced the people that I have worked for, the people that I have met, the books that I've read, everything that I know about successful people is they are resilient. They do not give up. I met a good guy, met a really good guy this last year. Did the National Pork Producers Council meeting in Florida. Met him, talked to him, he liked what I did, he brought me to Iowa. After I did the program in Iowa, I got talking to this guy named Ron, and he's telling me about his business. And I said, you know, you're a pretty big producer, and if your idea of a pork producer is that it's some guy in bib overalls with a piglet, that's fairly demeaning. He's got hundreds of thousands of hogs. He hires other farmers to raise hogs for him. He also owns and farms thousands and thousands of acres. And I said, how'd this all come together? Did you inherit this? And he said, oh, I got wiped out in the 80s. Now, some people in here know agriculture. We've got an ag lender back there. Just to give you a quick backstory, the 80s was to agriculture what the Great Depression was to Wall Street and the rest of America. In the 1980s, we saw interest rates spike to 18%. We saw an absolute cascading marketplace for our goods. It was terrible. I lived through it. I understand it. I'm not going to talk about walking uphill to school both ways barefooted. I'll just tell you that I know what the 80s were like because I lived it. I went through it. Just to put it in perspective, if you ever just want to, I don't need to carry on about it, you don't need to know nothing about agriculture, just know this. Here's how bad things were in the 80s. Some assets were so bad, the bank wouldn't take them back. That puts it in perspective right there, am I right? Some assets were so bad, the bank wouldn't foreclose them because they didn't want them either. Think about how that was. This Ron gentleman in Iowa lost everything. He was able to retain 4 acres and his house for his children. He got a job at UPS driving a delivery truck. He went to his wife's parents and asked them for money to buy groceries toward the end. He vowed he was going to come back and make it in agriculture. And he told me the proudest day was when he had turned in his resignation from UPS. I'm going back into agriculture and I'm going wide open. That's resilience. Said, I'm not going to just go back. I know this business. It wasn't my fault that this happened. I got caught in a bad way. Things were terrible. Interest rates spiked. I was in a bad situation. I'm going to come back and do it. Resilience. And you're saying, Damian, that's a personality trait. Can I create this? I think you can. I think you can remember every time that you've been knocked down, and if that don't make you stronger, I don't know what will. I think you can remember every time you've been slighted. That will make you stronger. Resilience, I believe, is really, really important to being successful. And if you're saying, I don't know if I have it within me to be like Ron the pig farmer or like Rocky, I think you just got to tell yourself a story. And the story is this. Every time you've ever been knocked down, you came back, and that makes you stronger right there. You remember what you went through. All right, getting a little serious right now. We're going to do a thing after I get to the fourth trait. We're going to give away something to the people that sit up front, but you've got to actually be a customer. You can't just be one of the bank employees, okay? So just so you know, one of you is going to get something free up here, and it looks like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. There's only two of you that aren't employees, right? The fourth trait is vision and goals. You know what vision is? It's real simple. It's seeing what others don't. It's looking at something like the Astor Theater. It looks like a pile of turds and envisioning it as the Taj Mahal. This was a pile of turds, wasn't it? My wife and I bought a farm as a pile of turds. We saw it as a Taj Mahal. My wife and I have one skill, one attribute, one trait together. We can both look at something that looks like terrible, terrible, absolute disaster, and we can see what it can become. That's why we work well together. That's probably what she saw in me. She thought that maybe I could be something someday. We met in 1996 in downtown Indianapolis. Went on a date. I didn't want to tell her I was a Bill Clinton impersonator, so I just kept telling her I was in the entertainment business. And then she said by the third date, Damian still wouldn't open up. He kept saying he was in the entertainment business, and he was really dodgy about what he did. She thought I was a stripper. My wife's favorite television channel is HGTV. How many people here like to watch HGTV? She loves HGTV. In fact, she considers herself to be a decorator. And if you watch HGTV, half of what they call decorating and staging a home mostly just means buying pillows. Buy a 6-foot couch, one that's long enough for a grown man to lay on, and then I come home from a business trip, my wife has covered it all up with pillows. It's a nice little spot, about enough for a 4-year-old's butt to sit on. My wife likes to buy pillows. If we ever are broken into by a burglar, and if we can just defend ourselves with a pillow fight, by God, we're good. My wife loves HGTV. I watch HGTV with Lori. And there's a program called House Hunters. Has anybody ever seen House Hunters? And there's a funny thing about House Hunters, because House Hunters are all the DIY shows where they're going to tear up. It's amazing to me how grown people that have lived somewhere, apparently their whole life, can't look past a purple wall. They come in and the first thing they say is, oh God, I can't buy this, there's a purple wall. A gallon of paint is $25. More importantly, you're going to tear the wall down. What the hell difference does it make if it's purple? So I never could understand this, and Lori says, well, you're fortunate, you have vision. You understand that we can get rid of that purple wall in an afternoon and we can have this, this, and this. Most people don't possess that ability to have big picture ideas. It's vision. It's seeing what could become. It's the same thing in our business. Whoever would have thought you could quit your job and all of a sudden make a whole bunch of money doing Bill Clinton impersonations and political satire shows at corporate events. And also, by the way, have been in some movies. That's a big deal. People like to hear that. Young people like to hear that. I got my Screen Actors Guild card. Big moment came in a movie called 2001: A Space Travesty, starring Leslie Nielsen. You guys remember Leslie Nielsen? 40 minutes of screen time. How many people have seen my role in 2001: A Space Travesty? So now you know why I'm doing gigs in Jasper, Indiana. The ability to see what nobody else can see, the ability to see what might become, the ability to see what you can build, that's what vision is all about. And of course, having the goals and saying we're going to get this pulled off, because most people struggle with that. Most people struggle with vision. I'll also tell you another funny, my wife says, you know one thing that is good about our thing? We came and looked at this farm we bought, because people don't understand that. You own a farm in Huntington? Yeah. Did you inherit the home place? I'm ninth. When you are ninth, the only inheritance you get is a willingness to fist fight. That is it. So on the farm we bought, it needed everything. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you close that door? Because apparently those folks want to be really loud back here. Apparently not having to tend bar for people makes it so that they don't have anything to do but talk. Thank you very much for doing that. Thank you very much for doing that. So anyway, my wife says, Damian, one thing that's good that helps you with your vision is you are colorblind. Is anybody here colorblind? No? I told you about the purple wall. I'm not going to pick on you if you are. I think that some of you are lying because 8% of American males are colorblind, and you guys didn't raise your hand, so somebody's lying in here. And frankly, based on how some of you dress, some of you are colorblind. I know you are. It doesn't affect girls very much because it's a recessive gene on the X chromosome, but it affects boys quite a bit. And so I'm colorblind. And my wife says, you know, like I can look past a purple wall because I'm colorblind. Let me just tell you what it's like being colorblind since none of you raised your hands. It's hell. I went and bought a jacket. I like to wear nice jackets. I was picking up a jacket, and guess what? The sales clerk said, you don't want that jacket. It's too taupey for your complexion. Taupey. I thought she was talking about a men's hairpiece. Turns out she's referring to a color, taupe, and I don't get taupe because I don't see it. I don't see mauve, fuchsia, melon, or salmon either. Let me just tell you, all you burnt sienna lovers, we colorblind people struggle with the 16-pack of Crayolas already, all right? You don't need to keep making up words that we don't understand. We can't see those things. It ain't easy being colorblind. Here's another thing you must understand about being colorblind. I go to a party with my wife once in a while. Maybe I'm wearing a sweater or a jacket like this, and someone says, that's a nice looking jacket. My wife says, I picked it out for him. And they said, why? And then she says, he's colorblind. And what do you all do? You're colorblind? What color's that? What color's that? And I would say, do you do this to deaf people? It's not easy being colorblind. Travel. You know, I travel quite a bit. Some parking garages have now removed the numbers and put in colors because they want to make it hard on me. Brown, orange, green, and red are all pretty much the same, just a matter of lighter and darker. So it's a dark night. I've been traveling all day, and I got to find my rental car. It's a Buick. It looks like everything else that Hertz has ever rented me, and it's somewhere between those 4 floors. Here's what you did. You thought you made it wonderful for society. You made it so a colorblind guy can't find his Hertz rental car, but a person too dumb to count to 6 is driving right now. Not easy being colorblind. I'm just going to give you this last piece of word, just a word of advice. If you happen to have a colorblind child, do not encourage him to become an electrician. My wife says, would you help me hang a ceiling fan? And I said, honey, you might as well sentence me to the electric chair right now. All right, so we've covered vision. We've covered the 4 traits of entrepreneurial success. And they are, who remembers them? They are risk tolerance and drive and resilience and vision. And we got this sheet of paper, which we'll be able to give you on the way out the door. You're an actual customer, right? Would you a copy of Brutal Truth? If I hop down there, I might break a hip. Copy of this? Oh. I mean, it's going to be one thing if you like, you know, try and say like, oh, it's okay. Like, but acting like you don't want it because I don't like it's not worthy of taking is going to kind of piss me off a little bit here. I think you should come. Would you come and get it? Because if I come over there, it's just going to be a room.
I had to answer a question.
No questions. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate it. Appreciate that. There you go. Are we having fun yet? I knew it was going to be worth y'all coming out here tonight. I mean, I was going to put the hard pitch on you and actually close the door. That was a subtle thing. Those girls weren't actually making noise. Those doors are locked right now. You're not getting out of here until each of you signs up for a new loan from Springs Valley Bank and Trust. We're going to put the hard sale on. You guys think you've been to the pressure cooker when you bought a timeshare? No, this is a pressure cooker. Let's talk now about habits, because I think the important thing that we must always do as business people, business owners, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, hard workers for somebody else, want to be entrepreneurs, want to be business owners, one thing you got to do is you got to possess good habits. You've got to develop good habits. We commonly think of habits as bad, like smoking. But habits can be really good, like exercising or flossing, right? I want to tell you there's a difference between habit and routine, okay? A routine is defined, look it up, unvarying, unimaginative, rote procedure. Rote, spelled without the W, means without thought. Unvarying, unimaginative, and without thought. Are those adjectives you would like to see on your tombstone? But we get really comfortable, don't we? We are humans. We go with what's comfortable. We go with what we've always done. And we say things like, this is how we've always done it. And because that is routine, which is without thought, which is unimaginative, which is unvarying, which is also very easy and comfortable. So, on the other hand, habits are acquired behavior patterns. Acquired means it's active. You went out and sought it out. You are making it happen. You may not like smoking, but it is acquired and it is active. Habits can be really, really good. Successful people possess good habits. The traits, some of that's going to be hard for you to pick up on, except for drive, which is the easiest one to pick up on. And you know what? Habits, you can develop any of these habits right here. First one is be decisive. I can't stand people who can't pull the trigger. Do you like these people? Do you respect them? They're always going to do something, right? You know, we've been thinking about, you know what? My wife and I have been talking about, looking into, and talking about isn't doing anything. And we must admit, we all are guilty of this. We get comfortable and we won't make the decision because we say things to ourselves like, well, I got to do a little more research. Bullshit. I'm sorry. No. You've done enough research. It's not that you don't have enough data. Half the time you're saying you don't have enough data, it's just that you don't want to actually make the decision. Understand this. No decision is a decision. Be successful, be decisive. Second habit of prosperous people. Treat time like money. We say this all the time, don't we? We hear it all the time. Well, time is money, time is money. And you are all more successful than the average American. You're sitting in this room, you came to a business thing hosted by a bank. You obviously understand time and money. Let me just put it in perspective for you. Median salary in the United States of America right now, median income is $59,000. That is, on a 2,000-hour week, about 50 cents a minute, okay? So how are you investing your minutes? If you are making 50 cents a minute, how are you investing your minutes? I'll just give you another bit of perspective. 2016, an article in the New York Times did a time study. It wasn't done by the New York Times, or I would not be quoting it. It was done by a legitimate outside resource. 5 hours and 2 minutes of television watching per day by the average American. 5 hours and 2 minutes. Now let's just put that in perspective. That means that your hour is worth $30 when you go to work. You're spending 5 hours per day, $150 equivalent to watch television. Put that over a week. I'm not smart enough to do this because I went to Purdue, but I think that's $1,050 in 7 days, is it not? Who's got their calculator? No, it is. Trust me, it is, okay? Are you looking at your minutes as actually being as valuable as they are? And I know you're going to say, but Damian, you can't work every minute of the day. No, you can't. But you also are wasting 5 hours a day watching television. How do you spend your minutes? How do you allocate your time? I'm going to give you another thought about time and money. I wrote an article about this. You're free to check out all my stuff. If anybody wants to keep up with my stuff, at Damian P. Mason is my Twitter handle. Damian Mason on LinkedIn. Jamie keeps up with me. I joined LinkedIn 6 years ago, accidentally thought it was an online sausage club. Marty, that was a joke, all right? Damian Mason, Professional Speaker, is my Facebook page. I put my articles out, so if you enjoy this kind of stuff, you can read my articles, and I think that some of you would enjoy it. You'd also enjoy watching some of the people that banter with me. I get people that don't like me, mostly on Twitter. That's the one that's toxic, right? They don't like my stance. They pick on me. The guy was in the ag meeting today, because I do about half my stuff is ag-related. You're just a mouthpiece for Monsanto. Always the unimaginative people say that because I do paid gigs for Monsanto like the one today. You're a mouthpiece for Monsanto. I always correct them and say, no, I'm not a mouthpiece for Monsanto. I also do paid gigs for Bayer, BASF, DuPont, Syngenta. I'm not a mouthpiece for Monsanto. I'm a whore to the highest bidder. With that in mind, I'd like to remind you that right now, Springs Valley Bank and Trust has the best interest rates in Du Bois County. Back in college, I took a finance class. I had to take it twice because that was not the most studious time of my life. And I know you guys have all had those moments in your life where you were kind of maybe not achieving as much as you should have. The best thing that ever happened to me was taking a personal finance class twice, because taking it twice, I learned it really good once. Interesting thing I remember from 1990 or 91 when I took that class, there was a survey done by a financial firm about savings rates. And we all know that Americans are not saving, haven't saved for years as much as they should. And they found that, by and large, everyone in the survey agreed if they earned $5,000 more per year, they would commit that $5,000 to savings. Now, what was really interesting was if the survey respondent made 20 grand a year, he or she thought they were 5 grand away from actually saving and investing. And if they made $100,000 a year, they said they were about 5 grand away from saving and investing. What does that tell you? That people will spend every dime that they make, no matter how many dimes they make. I think we do the same thing with our time. We always believe we'll be more responsible with new money that we come into than the money we have right now. We believe we'll be more responsible if we were given more time than the time we have allocated to us right now. I have a podcast. If you guys get bored, you can go on my website and find my podcast. I interview people, and the folks that are business people, I always ask them, if I gave you 4 more hours per week, if I could just magically grab 4 hours out of the sky and hand it to you, what would you do with those 4 hours? And almost everybody knows. They have an answer top of mind where they'd spend that 4 hours. I'd spend more time with my kids. I'd read more business books. Oh, I'd exercise more. And here's the thing. It means that they know it's important, but it's not so important that they're actually doing it now. Just like, oh, if I had 5 grand more, that money I'd invest and save, but not the money I have right now. We're doing the same thing with our time and our money. The reality is, you already got the time and money. You're just not investing it where you really should. So I think you get really successful by allocating the resources you have, not pretending you'd better allocate the resources if you had more of them. All right, time to give another book away because you guys are such an awesome audience. Can't do it with you because you're an employee. Can give it to you because also you're sitting in front. You're the person that sat right in front of the podium. You haven't seen one thing I put on that screen yet, have you? I mean, it'd be neat, like I'm kind of describing it pretty well, right? And they're not even that good of slides, to be honest with you. I mean, there's not like cool pictures or anything. It's just like a clock. I mean, so do you want a copy of Brutal Truth? Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to have to throw it to you. You got good hands? All right, there you go. Thank you for setting up. I appreciate you being here, I really do. Might need you someday if you're going to be the sheriff in this town, you know? All right, the next habit of success is be relevant. Now, this is really an interesting thing because you might notice I have Uber up here right now. And I know Uber doesn't come to Jasper probably so much, do they? It's more of a big city thing, but you understand what it is. Let's just put this out there right now. The problem when I say be relevant, you say, what does that mean? Relevant means you're in demand. Relevance means your phone is ringing, your email inbox is full, people are banging on your door, they want to do business with you. You matter to them. That's relevance. Because when you stop mattering to paying clients, then there is no reason for them to call you, to return your calls, to return your emails. After you stop mattering to them, you become less relevant. After you lose relevance, then you all of a sudden lose all demand. And after you lose all demand, you have no business. Then eventually you go out of business. This is all what we're talking about. Relevance equals demand. Relevance equals business. Relevance equals somebody wants to do business with you. And here's the thing. This is ongoing. When's the last time anybody used the Yellow Pages? So the Yellow Pages, we can say, have certainly lost relevance, right? Look at all the things in your life. Payphones. I used to not be able to live without them. I'd get off an airplane, I'd walk right over to a payphone, I'd dial in a 1-800 number that got me my access, that then I could make long-distance calls. Remember we used to pay for long distance? And I did all that. When's the last time you saw a payphone or needed one? I don't know what Superman does. Young kids didn't even get that, but that's all right. So here's the thing. Relevance means the world needs you. Let's talk about Uber. I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. A year ago, I finally downloaded the app on my phone. I resisted Uber because I'm not an early adopter, and I also had one other reason. At Northwest Elementary School in kindergarten, they brought in a local police officer, and he said, children, don't ever get into a car with strangers. And now it's a business. Doesn't make any sense to me. Paying money to do what the cop told me not to do in a kindergarten class. But the Uber fares are about half of what a cab fare is because somebody came with this idea. Wait a minute, all these folks got spare time and they got a car and they'd like to make a little money and they'll come and haul you around. It makes sense. Yellow Cab or any large city cab company probably never once ever thought their competition was Uber. The real issue here is if all you ever do is focus on your competition instead of where the client's needs are, you're going to get left behind. Yellow Cab thought their competition was some other cab company or the bus or the train. Never for once thought it was Bob over here with his car. What are you doing to stay relevant? And you do that by looking forward. Instead of looking at your competition, look at your forward. What's happening down the road? Where are your customers and what needs might you fill? This is an interesting thing to me. I actually am really, really wound up about it. And the whole sharing economy, as it's called, it's the sharing economy. We're doing this with Airbnb. Think about that. Airbnb. I'm so lonely and desperate, I'm going to have a bunch of strangers come and rent out my kid's bedroom. What if they're an axe murderer, for God's sakes? You invited them in and charged them $49 for the weekend. Doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not good with sharing to begin with because I'm the 9th. My share tickets were never used voluntarily, all right? My wife's a twin. She thinks a uterus is built for 2 people. I'm not good at sharing because I never did it voluntarily. I don't understand the sharing economy. We got the Airbnb, we got the shared ride service. I'm convinced we're going to end up with a new app called the Leftovers app. Why go to McDonald's? Larry's 3 blocks from here, he's got a cheeseburger left over. Yeah, he just grilled out for his kids and one of them wasn't home, so he's putting a cheeseburger out here. Well, it's bid up to $1.49 right now. A habit of success is always staying relevant, and this is a true acquired behavior pattern, just like I said habits are. You've got to always look at yourself and say, what am I doing that means I'm losing relevance, okay? That's a challenging thing. Bill Clinton, we knew that show was going away. How do you make it relevant? We always look at our offering and say, what can I do to be more relevant? Talking more about business now to small business people like you, because I'm reading the articles that talks about solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and the independent economy is going to take off. They're going to need somebody like me. What are you doing to stay relevant? Next habit of success. I'm going to be really sorry right here. Some of you are going to be offended. I'm going to tell you to be critical. I know we're not supposed to be critical. I know that we have, and this is what society has done. I don't blame any generation other than the baby boomers. I blame the hell out of the baby boomers. You invented this world where we give everybody trophies and tell them that they won. And here's the deal. You're not good at stuff just because you have a shelf full of trophies. I'll give you another example. We're doing it in school too. I just read an article about this. Do you know that in 2016, 2 years ago, a school in Maryland graduated 178 valedictorians. 1 in 3 of the students were valedictorian. Are you going to pretend that that really means that? No, everyone's a winner. So I know that this goes against the grain right now, where we give all the trophies and we give all the ribbons and we give all the valedictorians, because you're not really supposed to be critical and you're not supposed to admit you're bad at stuff. But you know how you get really good? By being critical of yourself. Critically analyzing your offering. This is one thing that comedy taught me. I didn't train in comedy. Being funny is like being tall. You are or you aren't. It's going to be really obvious by the time you're 20 years old, okay? So I didn't train in comedy until I entered comedy and made it my business. Then I trained in comedy, because you can teach a funny person to be funnier. You can't teach a boring librarian to be funny, okay? So one thing that you learn in comedy is to break down tape. We don't have tape anymore. It's digital, right? It's not videotape or audio tape like it used to be. But the best way to get good is to go back to your room right after your set and sit down in your hotel room while it's fresh in your mind, hence the immediately part of it, and do it every time you do a show, hence the regular part of it, and sit down there and break down that tape and write down how many laughs, how many chuckles. How many minutes did you take to deliver that new bit? And you got 3 laughs and it took you 3 minutes? That should only be a 1-minute bit that gets you 3 laughs in 1 minute. That's called tightening the act. That's called efficiency, as Seinfeld calls it. That's called compressing, as Damian Mason calls it. Here's where it applies to you. Do you ever just immediately after a customer transaction look critically at how you did your job? Do you ever look at any part of your business? Maybe you're in construction and you did a job and you finished this job. Do you ever then look critically at how you did and say, how can I get better? Sit down with a piece of paper with nobody around and just go through it in your head and look at the notes and say, you know, we really screwed up over here. We could get really stronger over here. That's the part about breaking down tape. The biggest benefit is, first off, you realize there are things to cut. In comedy, everything you write is not gold. Much of it is not. So you realize, okay, that bit doesn't work anymore. It's outdated. Cut it. I'm willing to bet that everybody in this room that owns or runs or works in a business is probably looking at something that a product or an offering that has almost no value anymore, that's completely on the way out, and you should just cut it and be rid of it. The great thing about comedy, if you're good, you cut stuff and get rid of it and move on. Too many businesses hang on to old dangling things that they fell in love with them and they just can't stand to get rid of them because it causes change. There's another element to being critical and breaking down tape, as I call it, that you can learn from. When you break down tape, it forces you to look at your business from your customer's perspective. And that's the strongest thing ever. When you view yourself from your customer's perspective, now you understand what you look like. What's your image? You think it's no big deal the truck looks like it just got done with a demolition derby? Does your customer want that sitting in their driveway? You think it's no big deal you fixed their furnace, but you also showed up an hour and a half late. The woman had to stay home and miss part of her job because the husband was traveling, and you show up an hour and a half late. You didn't value her time. Look at yourself from your customer's perspective, and I'll bet you will finally realize, you'll realize there are some things that you should cut, there are some things you're doing wrong, and there's some things you absolutely need to improve upon. That's the beauty of breaking down tape. Okay. Gotta do something fun now, because we've been having a little bit of a serious moment, Marty. And Jamie promises people, you come, you have a cocktail, you learn a lot, but we're also gonna have some fun. So now we're doing a little thing called the bald guy gets to choose the next set of material. No, the other bald guy sitting behind you right there. No shortage of y'all, but anyway. All right, you want to give me a category? You want me to do a story that's funny about family? You want me to do a Bill Clinton bit? What do you want to hear? Maybe you just name a category and I'll see if I got something there. You really do? I don't do Bill Clinton anymore. I say this all the time. I don't do Bill Clinton anymore. Thousands of women say the same thing. You're grown-ups. So they were talking to me not too long ago, and they were saying, you know, what would have happened if Hillary would have been elected? She'd have been president. She said, what would have happened to you? And I said, well, I'd have been first man. You know, I would have had no responsibilities. I could just walk around the White House every day in my underpants and say stupid stuff to the media all the time. Basically be the new Joe Biden. You want me to go the other direction also? Pick on the other side also? All right. This one's going way back. Because like I said, I haven't written new political comedy jokes for a long time, but you guys are old enough to remember this one. So they were talking to me not too long ago about George W. Bush. And I tell you what, yeah, of course, he and I were on a show together once on 60 Minutes, which is a television program that old people watch. And then me and George W. were on there, and they said, you know, Obama, he was really popular with the media. And I said, yeah, he's like a skinny Oprah Winfrey with bigger ears. And they said, what about Obama's dog? He's got a Portuguese water dog. And I said, isn't that the funniest thing? Portuguese water dog sounds like what we used to call our bong in college. Gurgle, gurgle. And of course, then they turned to George W. Bush, and George W. Bush says, Portuguese water dog? Why couldn't he get an American dog? Like a German Shepherd. There you go. I knew you'd like that, right? Habits of success. Be a promoter. Now, you're saying, Damian, why is there a clay target up there when you talk about being a promoter? I'm going to tell you why there's a clay target there. Anybody ever shot sporting clays? We don't need to get into a gun debate that has nothing to do with this. This is just about a sport analogy that you can relate to your business. In sporting clays, you use a shotgun, and a shotgun shoots a shell that has a plastic casing that has a bunch of little pellets in it. Some people call it golf with a shotgun. You go to a different station, the only difference is the greens don't move and the clay targets do. And you stand at that station and these targets fly by. Some of them go from right to left, some from left to right, some from behind, some from coming at you, some fast, some slow, high, low. I believe, because I enjoy that sport. I haven't shot it much lately, but I enjoy that sport. I believe there's a lot of analogy here to your business. Because when I worked at Cooper Lighting so many years ago, there was this thing about, you don't want to do the shotgun approach, it's just not focused enough. The shotgun approach always had a bad connotation, that it wasn't focused enough. The rifle approach is better because it's the one little projectile. The rifle approach is great for stationary objects. You tell me right now, in this marketplace in 2018, what object, what target are you looking at that is stationary? What customer do you seek to land that is not moving? Who do you want to do business with that is not in motion? I'd say there are none. I'd say that right now we've got so much disparity of marketplace, of demographic, and such a variety of movement that you need to have a shotgun approach and your promotion. So what I'm saying here is, imagine that pellet, that shotgun shell full of pellets. Imagine every pellet is an ounce of your effort. It's your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. It's going to be your email campaign. It's going to be your brochures that you type up. It's going to be your postcard mailings that you send out to clients. It's going to be your salesman's campaign, and it's going to be your association membership. It's going to be your trade show presence. It's going to be what you presented at the last convention you went to. It's going to be the Rotary you belong to. It's going to be the professional memberships that you maintain. Every pellet is one of those little efforts that you do. And here's the thing. Since we've got old, young, fast, slow, we've got a marketplace that is in such great motion, you probably better put as many of those pellets out there as you can. And what do we all know about sporting clays? You don't shoot those pellets where the target is. You shoot them where the target is going. Where's the target going to be? And that's the thing about this marketplace right now. I think there's so much motion, there's so many things in motion, there's so many ways that we can reach people, you're going to have to put that out there through your promotional effort. I talk about being a promoter also because I just think that most companies lose sight of this. They get comfortable. You know, there's that old backward thinking that says things like, well, if business is good, why advertise? Some of you ever get guilty of that? Because that's not doing business better. You should always be a promoter. Let me give you an example. One of my favorite products in the world is Coca-Cola. Pepsi sucks. Can we all just agree on that? I worked at Purdue University at Harry's Chocolate Shop, which is the most popular bar on campus. I was a bartender, waiter, and let me just tell you one thing. In the history of being a bartender, no patron ever comes in and orders a Jack and Pepsi or a rum and Pepsi. Because Pepsi is so god-awful, you can't even make it good by adding booze to the glass. I love Coca-Cola. It's the real thing. Let me tell you a couple things about Coca-Cola. Not only do I love it, Coca-Cola is a promoting company. Coca-Cola, last year, spent 11% of revenue on their branding, marketing, and promotion effort. 11%. So just think about your business. Think about what you do. And you can say, well, we're not like Coke, or, you know, they're a consumer brand, we're this. Don't worry about any of that. Just ask yourself, if Coca-Cola, ask yourself two questions. Is Coke a better recognized brand than you? I can answer that for everyone in this room right here, okay? They're the most recognizable brand on earth. You can go to third world countries and find you a Coca-Cola and find you a billboard that has Coca-Cola on it because it's the most recognizable brand on earth, probably. If Coke is willing to spend 11% worldwide, almost $4 billion on their marketing effort, why are you not spending money and effort on your promotion and advertising and branding? Be a promoter. Obviously, it's changing on how we do this. The social media is changing this. YouTube is changing this. We all know what's happening, but it doesn't mean you let your foot off the gas. Be a promoter. Habit of success. This one's one of my favorites. Everybody we know has an excuse, right? Everybody we know says, well, I'd be more successful. My business would be better if, well, and the cat and then, well, the dog and then somebody ate my homework. This is a bunch of nonsense. Everybody we know thinks that we'll believe them when they tell you, our business would be better if we just fill in the blank. And that's what I call the myth of inadequate resources. Just like I talk about the talent myth, you know, Lady Gaga, people think it's just talent, it's about work ethic. You have what you need. In most cases, it's not that you don't have the right resources. We believe this because we want to believe it, and we tell other people this. Well, I'd be doing better if I had more time, if I had this tool, if I had this resource. Don't do that to yourself. Good friend of mine in Arizona, she's a lovely gal. She comes over, her kid plays in our pool, and we have a good time. She got married. She got $1,000 worth of cookware, and she said, now I can cook. She can't boil water. We go and visit her, we have crackers and Velveeta slices. That's the depth of her cooking. She's got $1,000 worth of cookware that she got at her wedding. And you know what? It's not me being a chauvinist. I'm a pretty good cook. I don't care, male, female. It's not even the point. It's just that, let's just admit this. Cookware don't make you a good cook. Having the actual drive to do it will make you a good cook. Brother-in-law of mine owns a fitness facility up in Indianapolis. He started with nothing, was a trainer, and he quit his big gym he worked for and said, I'm going to start on my own, I'm going to have my own gym. The only problem is he had the money to get his own gym, but he had about a dozen clients that loved his regimen, and they stayed with him. And you know what he told me when he started out 30 years ago? What his tools were? The stairs, the wall, the floor, the outdoors, and a towel. He trained people with the stairs, the wall, the doors, the outdoors, and a towel. Don't pretend that you can't be fit with those 5 things, because everybody has those resources. It's just a matter of how you utilize the resources. All right, let's get on to you, because I know you guys are, you know, we got drinking to do. But none of this is going to matter. And by the way, I got to come down here now, because I'm a nice facility. Isn't this a nice facility? Give a hand to that. There's a guy named Mark that is in here working tonight. That's my sound man that came in here at 3 o'clock to help me get set up. And he's not making a penny to be here tonight. So you know what? Give him a little love on the way out the door also. I mean, let's face it, Mark. I mean, I got paid to come here because, you know, why wouldn't? I mean, Jasper. I mean, you know, kidding. I like it here. I do. And like I said, Schinneberger's just paying the heck out of me. I mean, have I told you I'm a whore to the highest bidder? They're running a promotion over there on CDs where they're paying you upwards of 0.2% right now. All right. We're giving free stuff away. These guys showed up, and he's the nicest dressed person here, so I'm going to give you a copy of Brutal Truth. Would you like a copy of Brutal Truth? Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's called re-gifting right there, my friend. Let's talk about you, because all the habits and all the traits don't really matter, because if we want to do better, it's on us to do better, right? And I'm pretty good about looking at myself like this. My wife always says, you know, we've been a one-man band with me as your helper for a long, long time, and we always critically look at what we do. We also know that it's not about the habits always, it's not about the traits, sometimes it's about what it is about you. And here's where it gets really good. You have a bunch of tools. We just talked about myth of inadequate resources. You've got a whole bunch of tools you've never even tapped into, which brings me to the talent stack. The talent stack. I can't take credit for that. How many people in here have read the comic strip Dilbert? Anybody read Dilbert? The man that created Dilbert is named Scott Adams. He's a pretty sharp guy. He also writes books. He wrote in one of his books about a thing called the talent stack. And what he's really describing is everything you possess, because if you want to be really, really successful, you got 2 ways to do it. You can be the best in the world at one thing, or you can be pretty darn good at a bunch of things that all pile up together in a neat stack and feed one another and give synergies to each other to make you good. That's the talent stack. How are we ever going to be the best in the world at one thing? Michael Phelps, best in the world at one thing. Are we going to be that? Probably not. So the better idea for us is to stack up our talents, our background, our skills, our education, our relationships, and everything we have. He even talks about looks. You know, Dolly Parton, part of her talent stack was her looks. Conan O'Brien and his goofy hair, he keeps it that way for a reason, because it gives him some distinctiveness, right? He's not that funny, trust me. we all must capitalize on our talent stack. It's everything you have. And if you really want to be critical about this, it's a great thing to do. I've done this also. Sit down and look at where everything feeds together and how it might help you. Another guy that I listened to and I read a book by him, it was called Intentional Congruence. He purposefully says, if you want to succeed, take as many things as you can in your life and overlap them where there's slight overlap so that way they all feed one another. The intentionalness of congruency, things that go together, make it go like this. Another good example, Steve Martin. You guys have all heard of Steve Martin, right? Pretty famous comedian. In his book called Born Standing Up, Steve Martin alludes to his first episode of The Tonight Show, back when Johnny Carson was still the host. He did his set, they cut to commercial, he went and sat down with Johnny. During commercial break, Johnny Carson looked at Steve Martin and said, to be successful, you use everything you've ever learned in this business. And I read that and I thought, that's true. There's been times when I was on stage where I pulled out stuff I'd forgotten I knew, you know, the first 3 digits of pi or some fact about Zimbabwe or whatever it might be, because you use everything you've ever known. So if that's true in comedy, why wouldn't it be true in your business? Why couldn't you utilize everything you've ever learned to be successful in your business? Again, it's the talent stack. So if you ever really look at yourself with an analytical standpoint and say, how can I better leverage this? It's about leveraging all of your relationships, your skills, your attributes, your experiences, everything you've got. How can you pile it up together? That's what the talent stack's all about. You want to be successful? You also seek out the right support. Now this one's big, especially for any of you that are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, business owners that have gone through the ups and the downs, because there will be ups and the downs. There's always going to be trials and tribulations. What's your support? None of us are an island, as much as we might want to believe that we're strong, that we're tough. So I'll tell you a little story, because I think that when we talk about doing business better, that's the dream, is to be prosperous. Life and business by choice. What do you really want this to look like? What's my vision? What tools do I need to get there? What talents, what traits, what habits do I need to develop? We got all that. But what's your support? I told you about my beginning of being a Bill Clinton impersonator. I told you about being in movies. Things went pretty well. I was a poor farm kid. Was in debt paying off Purdue when I started my political comedy show. Things got really good. I set goals. I set goals for what I wanted this thing to look like. And things were going amazing by the year 2000. And then everybody said, what are you going to do when Bill Clinton's not president anymore? And I said, I'm going to take a year and I'm going to figure out the next thing. And here's where you really screw yourself up. You think, just like I had that picture of the guy holding up the trophy, you think you're a little better than you really are. You think you're so damn good that it's only going to take you a year to restart yourself? No, it's going to take a longer time than that. So there I was in 2001, coasting along. I hadn't done anything special. It's just bought my first farm, already owned some other real estate, invested in a couple of companies that were supposed to go public. Remember that in 2000? All these IPOs were about to be, and you know, all the dot-coms and all these companies are going to go public. So I was just a little bit overextended, but I was only going to take a year to get the next thing going, right? And then a thing happened called 9/11. You guys remember this, don't you? Political comedy was not very in vogue after 9/11. Now, I was already facing the fact that business was going to slow down. I already knew that a political comedy show starring Bill Clinton was going to not have as much appeal if he's not in office. But I didn't count on what happened, because then the phone didn't ring at all, except for people calling to cancel shows. And then, after a few months, all of the invested money I was going to live on evaporated. So I lost half of my net worth. And then all of a sudden things get really, really tight, because now you're scrambling and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. You said, man, I've got good habits, I got good traits, and I've saved my money, I've done all this, but by golly, it's happening so fast that there you are. So it gets pretty bad pretty fast. 2003, I was kind of hoping for an identity theft. I thought it'd be neat to give me to somebody else. 2004, the bank called and said there was suspicious activity in my checking account. It was a deposit. Things were terrible for the last part of '01, all of '02, all of '03, rock bottom '04. Rock bottom '04, as you probably have noticed by now, I'm kind of a high energy person. I don't do well sitting around. I'm kind of high strung. 2004, my wife went back to work, and I said, I can't handle this anymore, Lori. We've lost half of what we were worth. We had a house in Arizona. We had a farm. We had all this good stuff going on. My phone used to ring. I used to be in demand, and I haven't been in demand for a long, long time. And I tried to buy a car wash. I tried to get in the golf course business. I tried all kinds of stuff. And finally, after more and more money just going away, and me sometimes doing maybe 20 Bill Clinton shows per year, and I used to do 100, I said, I can't live like this, Lori. So in 2005, I came to my wife and I said, I called every human I knew for the last 3 months. I've got a job. I'm going to start a job. I'm going to sell medical devices. They're not paying me much. In fact, it's only a little bit more than I made back when I quit, clear back when I was just a 25-year-old guy. But I got to do something. I can't live like this. And my wife said, Damian, don't take that job. If you take that job, you will be successful because you're a hard worker and you know how to sell stuff. But if you take that job, every ounce of your spirit will be crushed. You will not be the funny, vibrant, entrepreneur, business type of person that I love. You will absolutely be crushed. Don't take that job. We think that support is someone patting you on the back and telling you you tried, and that's crap. Support is truth and critical feedback. And every person in this room that has been through the ups and the downs of running their own business knows exactly what I'm talking about. You don't need somebody to tell you you tried. You know you tried. Try is crap. Try is what weak people say when they mean no. Try is what people mean when they say when they want credit for really knowing they didn't actually put in the effort. No. You don't want someone patting you on the back telling you you tried. True support means somebody that gives you the truth, that knows you and says, here's what you are made to do. You are not made to go and sell medical devices. You are made to create your own thing, and I don't want to live with the Damian Mason whose spirit is crushed. I got my support. I hope you have your support because it will make you so much better off down the road to have someone that will give you the truth and the critical feedback. I didn't take the job. I started the landscaping company. 3 days a week, I went out and landscaped 12 hours a day. I still was doing some political comedy. Every day out there on the end of a shovel, I thought about my future and I thought about what do I want to do? And I built, I was doing okay. We had, the business was going, and then all of a sudden one thing fed the other, because you ever notice that? Work begets work, productivity creates more productivity. All of a sudden when I was at my desk, I was creating better stuff. I was writing better material. I was funnier again. I was also going to bed exhausted. Every day for 3 days of 12 hours out there on the end of a shovel, I thought about my future, and I knew it sure as hell didn't involve me on the end of a shovel. We have these sheets on the way out, if nothing else other than just a reminder of what topics we covered. I hope this was helpful because I was brought here specifically to help you get better, to do business better. We shared the traits, we shared the habits, we made you think about what success is. It's defined by you. What's it look like in your head? And then, of course, I told you, tap into your talent stack and find the right support, which is truth and critical feedback. There's one last thing, of course, I need to tell you, and I've kind of already alluded to this. It's just something Jamie just kind of wanted to share with you. They're number one, in case you guys didn't know that. They're amazing. Of course, we all know that. That's the French Lick branch. If you just are bored, maybe you want to smell some really crappy sulfur, drive over there. Anyway, as I told you, I'd like you to keep up with me. Please do so. Please follow me, like me, stalk me. I really appreciate you bringing me here to Jasper, Indiana. Thanks a lot for making me part of your evening.